Came across an article the other day, and it's interesting. This was in the Globe and Mail, and it caught my attention for one very obvious reason. It talked about burnout, and burnout is something we have talked about in the past as Canadians deal with it perhaps more than they have in decades past. But then the really interesting part of this, the part that really stuck out, was the part about rest. Yeah, something as simple as rest, and the fact that apparently most of us simply don't get enough. And in fact, the number's pretty startling. So we wanted to talk about this today. Catherine Roscoe Barr is a lifestyle journalist, the author of a new book called Feel Better Now, and she is on the line. Thank you so much for being here. Let me begin by asking the question. When I said the number's rather startling, it turns out, if I read this right, that on average, right, we get just 17 minutes a day of what we would call actually resting. So let's break this down because that seems kind of nuts.
Yeah, that is a startling number. I think it's so interesting how most of us know we need rest, but we're not getting the rest we need. And that is what I am obsessed with helping people do, is learn to rest. It's actually a skill, I think.
You know, it's funny. You think that that's the least thing you'd need a skill for, is learning to basically do nothing or just rest. But it seems that we take every waking moment, and the numbers show it, to be doing something. And obviously that's not really helping us rest.
No, not at all. And I think, we fill our time with so many things that don't help us recover. And that's what I'm really interested in. I'm a neuroscience-based wellness coach, and I really think okay, what would help my nervous system come back into regulation so I can enjoy my experience of life and show up as a well-rested version of me.
Well, so let's deal with that, because I'm reading and in seeing the article, it says things like being in nature, bird watching, camping, etc. That doesn't necessarily count for rest, or does it? That's active rest versus passive rest. Is there a difference?
Yes. There's many different kinds of rest. Exactly like you said, there's passive rest, there's active rest. It's when we can kind of check out from things that are stressful to us and check into things that are relaxing, whether we are moving our body, whether we are still. And the thing that I find really helpful is to think of it in the flexible framework, like 1 minute of pausing and reflecting and noticing nature and taking a deep breath or having a hug from someone you love. That can really help you recover and feel rested.
Which is interesting, of course, because a lot of time now is spent what people think is resting, looking at a video screen. The same story, by the way, and this is, again, just as crazy as the fact that we only get 17 minutes of what we would call real rest. Canadians spend on average, an hour and 42 minutes each day staring at various screens, which in and of itself is a bit disturbing, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually thought the number would be higher. That number, when I read the article, startled me because I felt like it would be higher. You know, when I'm out at the grocery store, in the lineup at the bus, or, anywhere, I just see people on their phones, and that actually can elicit the stress response in our body, and we want the opposite. We want to do things that elicit the recovery response. And so I think, all of this can be helped by a mindfulness practice. And all that means is just noticing how things make you feel in your body, and then choosing things that for yourself help you truly relax and recover.
Can you explain that if you could? So someone's sitting at home, end of the day, and you're on your phone and you're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or whatever else. And some people might say, well, that's relaxing for me. Maybe there's some stuff on there that's made you laugh, or, basically some sort of emotion that comes into play in seeing something. Why does that not qualify as rest?
Well, part of it is just that it can increase cortisol in our body. The light, when the sun is beginning to set, that's sort of more red light spectrum, and blue light, which is what screens emit, can increase our cortisol. And so even if it feels relaxing, something different can be going on in our body. And it also depends what we're reading. Is something stirring us emotionally? Is it making us feel jealous of what someone else has, or like we're not enough, or, that it's the bad news in the world? And I think all of these are external things. I think really tuning in and pausing and asking yourself what you need to feel rested, you will always get the correct answer, and then you just need to follow those breadcrumbs.
So if it's this difficult, as the numbers show, for Canadians to actually go ahead and get that, pure rest, that rest that everyone needs, what are some tips on saying to yourself, okay, I know I need to do this, and as you mentioned off the top, the funny part is you'd think this would be easy to do, not hard to do, right? When you're asking someone, okay, forget about work, turn it off, forget about, family, whatever, just for a few minutes. How do you get yourself into that frame of mind? What's the best way to do it?
One of the best tools I teach my clients is retrospect. That when we aren't mindful and things sort of numb us, not, we're busy, we're stressed, and we just distracting ourselves sometimes feels restful, but it's not. But if we can just pause and say, what do I know makes me feel well rested? And, that's things like nature and spending time with people you love and maybe reading or journaling or reflecting or having a bath or enjoying a cup of tea. It's the things that allow your mind to relax, but also your body and especially your nervous system. And so I think, knowing little basic things like that in your body and really just tuning in can show you what really helps you rest.
And is it helpful, or do you tell clients, it's almost like an appointment, right? You have to say to yourself at a certain point, I am going to actively now try to get that rest. Can you do that? Can you make it an appointment?
I think so. I have what I call AM and PM rituals, and I really encourage my clients to do those. And so I know at the end of the day, I need a period of time to wind down before I can even sleep, and that's part of rest. And so I ask myself, what helps me wind down? And that's disconnecting from bad news and emails and blue light and, too much food or drink and those sorts of things. And, it's different for everybody. And so that's the fun part is it's almost like a menu. Ooh, what's my relaxation menu? What can I choose from even in little bits, like 1 minute here and there? We are so busy, and that's, just like a bigger question of how can we as a society celebrate rest and create workspaces and communities where rest is encouraged and prioritized. But I think when you just ask yourself, what are the minute by minute things I can do to recover, it can make a really big difference in your life and the way you show up.
How's falling asleep in front of the TV?
Not good.
Okay, well, not good. Okay, thought I'd ask.
No, not good. Sorry.
That's okay. Asking for a friend. Then I would simply ask as well, and I like to think I'm a pretty good napper. I think it's one of those things you develop, with the kind of schedule you have. And so that part's okay. Sometimes I think, and someone else mentioned this to me as well, simply closing your eyes and doing nothing else, just that is a good way to start.
Yes, because you can rest your senses. You can rest your hearing, your vision. Those are things that are just so stimulated, especially now because of all the screens in our life, that, just literally, sometimes I'll just go into a dark room for 5 minutes and just have silence and darkness and just breathe. And that 5 minutes can feel like a 2-hour nap sometimes.
All right. Some great tips. The book is called Feel Better Now. Catherine Roscoe Barr, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.